Should you be migrating away from Klaviyo right now? That's the million-dollar question that's on everybody's mind, and the one I want to address in today's video. If you haven't caught my past video covering the Klaviyo pricing changes, please do. But the short recap of that is that Klaviyo has started enforcing its pricing policy a few months ago, 2 months ago, and as such, many small businesses are seeing their Klaviyo bills increase with the potential to increase even further. And that raises the question, hey, Klaviyo is getting really expensive. Is it time to move? Let's look around and see what the alternatives are. Maybe we can save some money by choosing a tool that's less costly. That's a perfectly logical train of thought. The cost of these tools, will, of course, impact the ROI of your email program, and in some cases can make huge savings. We have one client who we've estimated the Klaviyo cost increase is up to $70,000 per year that they'll be seeing when this appreciation discount disappears. So it's a big topic. It could certainly save a lot of money by switching to a cheaper provider, but switching ESPs is also a big deal. And so I'm Sarah Kapler. I'm founder and CEO of Centric Squared. We're a CRM-driven marketing agency. We help our clients find the right CRM and use the right CRM to get their email marketing performing. And so as such, we've managed dozens of migrations for clients, and we've learned a lot in the process of common pitfalls that people fall into when planning and executing a migration. So what I want to do today is kind of address the top 4 migration mistakes to avoid. Before I do that, let me share with you a fun little video, which you may have seen making the rounds. I just couldn't help myself. So should you migrate away from Klaviyo? The competitors of Klaviyo right now are going hard on migration. This is a little video that they made for the Great Email Migration, and I'll spare the commentary here, but you can get a feel for what they're doing. Oh, this giant migration, like the animals in the African savannah. Everybody's fleeing Klaviyo, turning it into a funny AI-generated clip that's gotten some pretty good engagement. Anyway, I just wanted to share that because it's fun. If you haven't seen some of the migration angles here, then you're probably just not looking at them, but they're everywhere. So is there really a great migration happening? Should you join in and be a part of this great migration or not? And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. So there's really 4 mistakes that any small business makes when migrating, and I'm going to address them one by one. The first one is focusing on price instead of value. So yes, Klaviyo is getting expensive. There's no doubt about that, but is it bringing in a higher amount of revenue because of its features and suites of tools, right? And so the argument here is like, okay, maybe you're paying $1,000 a month in Klaviyo, but maybe your email marketing program is generating $50,000 a month, okay? Very realistic numbers from small businesses that we see. If you were to move down to, let's say, Omnisend or Yotpo, something that's pay per send possibly, or, has a different billing system, maybe you could get those monthly costs down to, say, $500 a month. But if you're missing some key features and some of these automations can't go, then, then you're losing money on the overall, value that you're getting out of the tool. So for example, if you're switching to save $500 a month, but you're losing $20,000 a month on automations that you won't be able to perform, no brainer thing. So I think people have a tendency to focus on this billing price without necessarily seeing what the value is that they're getting from access to this tool. Now, we're a Klaviyo partner, have been for 6 years now. The tool really is second to none in terms of like the amount of features that it has, the amount that you're capable of doing. It's very intuitive, it's very powerful. However, not every single business is going to be able to use 100% of its feature set, right? We have some clients who are really doing very simple rudimentary email marketing because that's their business. They might only have a single product. They might only have a single service, right? They might have much smaller list or whatever their business reason is. Not everybody's going to need the Cadillac of email marketing to get the job done. I think those are the cases where it makes more sense to switch. Whereas if you are, running a complex, e-commerce with many integrations, lots of flows, it's going to be hard to recreate that in another tool. And so before you get all excited about saving your $500 or $1,000 a month on billing costs, zoom out, get your high level of, where the revenue is really coming from, and, what key integrations are required or what key features are required to keep that revenue coming in. So don't focus on price, focus on value, number one. I want to transition here to show you a slide from a talk I gave about migrating ESPs at a conference last fall in Utrecht in the Netherlands. These are the reasons that we see for why people are moving away from ESPs. So I share it because, of course, price is a part of the equation, but it is not the only part of the equation, right? Common reasons people migrate ESPs, number one, are deliverability issues, and especially more and more if you're not able to have your emails go through and reach recipients in their inboxes, and if the tool you're using doesn't give you the visibility into why, that's a really big reason that we're seeing people migrate ESPs, because email is getting more complex. The price increase is also a really big factor. But then there's others, the team and usability, the business changes, there's limitations in the reporting, and the relationship you have with the ESP, meaning maybe you need somebody who has better support and availability to support you, right? And so these are some key reasons that we see people moving away, but it's not only price. So I just wanted to share that. The second mistake that we see often when people are considering migrating ESPs is they're underestimating the time and cost to actually migrate. So ESP migration is not like a website migration. It's not a switch that you turn on and off one day, right? One day URL points to the old site, the next day it points to the new site. Basta, right? Like that's clear cut from one to the next. ESP migrations aren't traditionally like that, especially when you've built out a pretty full email program. We generally tell our clients to estimate about 3 months to migrate. Now, some people might do it faster, some people might do it slower, but as a rule of thumb, as a ballpark, that's a good expectation. The reason for that is that when you're migrating ESPs, you have to do something called warming up the new infrastructure, which means you can't just on day one blast an email from a new ESP to 100,000 people and expect it to go through. It won't. You'll have some serious deliverability issues. It will take you a long time to recover from. So you have to kind of warm up the new system before it can really accommodate your entire email volume. That's called warming the infrastructure. We can go into that in a future video, but the idea is it takes some time to warm up. You don't want to be doing nothing while you're warming up the new video, right? You can still keep emailing from your old system while you're warming up the new infrastructure. And so because of that, it's not a switch that's on and off. It's more like this dance of switching your weight from one foot to another until finally all the pieces are in the new one and you can kind of walk away. So it does take some time to migrate. That doesn't mean it's crazy complex and impossible. It's certainly possible to do, but timing is a big consideration. And most small businesses underestimate that. They think it's a light switch and they're like, what do you mean? What do you mean it's going to take all this time? Another factor on the time consideration is some ESPs like say Omnisend even offer you what they call free migration. And that's another, it's a great offer, but it's only going to migrate your automations, some settings, and your lists. You still will have to migrate your content over, meaning you're going to have to redesign your emails. You're going to have to re-QA them. You're going to have to probably update some things along the way, but you have to rebuild most of your automations and move them over. So the small business clients that we serve, have about 5 to 10 flows each with 5 to 10 emails each, right? So you're talking about 25 to 100 email templates that you're having to re-import, redesign, recreate. Most of the time, it's advantageous for kind of content management to be building content with the builder of the new ESPs, meaning you don't just want to export and import HTML, and then it's really hard for most of your marketing team to see what's going out and to be able to make quick changes. That you really need needed more of a developer to do so. You're talking about rebuilding and recreating a pretty high volume of emails. And then the training time, most ESPs are pretty intuitive. We look at a demo, you say, oh yeah, it's easy, no problem. Well, when you have a team of 6 people who are, expected to do a job in a new tool, don't underestimate that it's going to take a little bit of time for them to do it. And it's a big ask to expect everyone to just go into work the next day and, do their job in a completely different setting where all the buttons that they thought they knew where they were disappeared. I liken it to, the switch from a PC to a Mac. It can be really destabilizing. You're really used to, productivity with one tool, and all of a sudden the simplest things and shortcuts are all different, and you feel like you got a handicap in terms of productivity, and that takes some time to acclimate to. So even your sharpest team members are going to need a bit of an adjustment period, and then and most people totally gloss over that and say, nope, one day to the next, here you go. So not factoring in the time. So of course there's cost to migrating. Of course there's time to migrating. Time is a cost. For our clients, it depends. It can be anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000 to migrate an account from one EFP to another. But the time frame is also really important. Okay, so let's move on to the third mistake that people make when they're migrating away. And it's small businesses tend to skip what we call evaluation criteria, which is kind of a term that comes from the corporate world and vendor selection process. But what it means is you're asking yourself as a business, what do I really need out of a new system? And not just fixing the pricing, but think bigger. Where is my business growing? Is the new system capable of scaling with me or going in the direction that I need it to? But also looking at your team and looking at your vendors or your agency partners and making sure that they can all adapt to the new system too, right? Because what you have as an ESP is not just an invoice, it's kind of a live operational system. And oftentimes people overlook kind of how dynamic and how many integrations there are, how many people are interacting with it. And as a general rule of thumb, we tell people, look, take a step back, ask yourself, where's your business going? What industry are you in? How are you communicating with customers? What are the channels that you need? But also look internally at your team and ask yourself, how's everybody using it? Who's using it? And think about what you actually need out of a new system before you start jumping into a new system. And the reason being, oftentimes businesses overlook what success means, right? And of course, saving some money on license fees is great, but at the expense of either lost revenue or a super unhappy team, or, having to now use 3 different platforms where you used to use just one, those issues can sometimes creep up seemingly out of nowhere downstream, and they can be avoided if you kind of take that step back before you jump into migrating. That doesn't mean you can't be quick. That doesn't mean it has to take, months to do. However, giving it some thought and making sure that it's solving problems and adding value is really, really important. So that's the third mistake. People just kind of jump in because, oh, look, I saw a really cool post on LinkedIn and so is doing great things with this tool. So I'm going to jump in and move everyone up. But now, they call us 6 months down the line, and now they have 4 different tools that they're using, and the tools are talking to each other. Now they need a developer to bring it all together, and they're missing some opportunities in their kind of marketing program because the data's, so scattered. So there are times when that doesn't work and things can kind of fall apart if you're not intentional about the move. And then the last mistake number 4 that I want to cover is not doing your homework. So you might know exactly why you want to move, and you might go to a website and read a landing page and maybe have a call with a sales demo, and poof, look, everything can be done. Let's go ahead and move. But the sales guy told me it was possible. Yeah, okay. I'm like, let's take a step back here. Of course, the sales guy is going to tell you it's possible, and it very well may be possible, right? There's still something to be said for actually trying it out, actually going in and testing it and having your team use it and see what they think, actually using it. Don't just look at the screen where, oh, look, you can build campaigns. Okay, go in and actually build a campaign. Have your team go in and do that. What's the difference? Sometimes what took you 5 minutes in one tool, it's possible, but it's going to take you 3 hours in the new tool. So, understanding that sometimes the way you're working with the tool is going to drastically change, and the time involved to maintain it is going to drastically change. And we see that a lot with Klaviyo, especially because Klaviyo is still best in class for a lot of features. And so the businesses that really rely on those advanced features, they might move over to a competitor. And then guess what? They can't do these advanced things anymore. Now it's taking them a day to get the reporting they need, where it used to take them 2 minutes, right? And so there's a trade-off. Both ways get the job done. Both are possible, but the overall impact on your team and on your profitability is gonna take a big nosedive if you're using really ineffective tools to do so. So those are the top 4 mistakes that we see in our experience when migration's going wrong. Migration's gone wild. One is they're focusing on price instead of value. So just looking at the invoice isn't really fair either. 2 is underestimating how long it takes to migrate and how expensive it can be to migrate. 3 is skipping these evaluation criteria. So just kind of jumping in on one factor instead of considering the whole net end result that you want as a business. And 4 is just kind of not doing your homework. So not actually testing things. Then I'd ask them, what was the sales process like? How did you come to the decision? And they'll say, oh, the sales pitch was really good. They told us we could do everything we wanted to do, and so we didn't feel the need to test. And then oftentimes what happens is after the migration, they go, oh, okay, now we see there's some pitfalls, and now we see there's some workarounds, and now we have to go and get a third-party tool to work around it. So are we better off? It's not always clear cut. Now, I'm not saying migration is out of the question. I think there is a great migration happening, and there are a lot of people moving away from Klaviyo. In our experience and our small business, we've got about a third of our clients are either migrating or seriously considering migrating at this stage away from Klaviyo. So it's a big volume. We feel it, and I know a lot of businesses are thinking about it too. If you need a hand assessing or having a conversation about what decision is right for your business, you're welcome to reach out to us through our website. We do offer a free complimentary call. Maybe it's something we could help advise on, so you're not doing this alone. We would say it's not worth cutting the corners on for a couple $100 a month more. So do your homework and research before you make the decision to switch. Yes, costs are going up, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to move. That's it. I hope you found this video useful. Please check out my other videos. I did one on navigating Klaviyo's pricing changes, and I hope you find it useful too. Have a great day.